And we're back. Welcome, you guys. Today, the markets are bullish. Are you watching the crypto markets? Let's talk about what is happening. There was a big meeting today in Washington, D.C. I think it was at the White House. A lot of crypto industry developers, the big names, they were all there meeting with officials from the government, including the president, and markets are responding. Maybe not just because of that, but certainly markets are responding. I've pulled up CoinGecko here, and I want to run through looking at some of the market. And let me accept all these cookies here. Okay, let's accept. There we go. And if you check it out, look at the spikes on almost everything there. Bitcoin is way up in 24 hours. It's up 8%. Ethereum is up a whopping 20%. And the list goes on and on. It's green across the board nearly. You just keep going down and it's green. This is something I've mentioned before. When there's a bull market, what do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats. So I want you to take action right away. First of all, please hit the subscribe button, like this video. And then secondly, you need to get yourself on Coinbase or Binance. You need to get access at some point soon to a centralized exchange because the market's about to explode. Let's get into some of the discussions around the recent SEC guidance that's been put out. I talked about yesterday the Paul Atkins video regarding the SEC allowing some more options to happen in crypto. And some remarks from other people out there, some news are basically talking about, are we about to have another ICO boom? Let's talk about ICO boom, what that means. ICO means initial coin offering. Initial coin offerings really started, way back in, I think 2015 might have been when Ethereum had its initial coin offering. And in very short time, they effectively raised something like $20 million. Don't quote me on that number exactly, but something around that order. Initial coin offerings are really interesting. They're quite different than an initial stock offering. And I'm just speaking from a U.S. customer base, a U.S. retail base. When you have a company going public, often what happens first is the first people allowed to buy these things are known as accredited investors. Accredited investors historically in the United States are people that had a certain amount of net wealth. I think the number was $1 million, and they had some history of being in markets. There was some ways to show that. Effectively, it locked out the little guy like you. Initial coin offerings, on the other hand, allowed anybody in the entire world to participate in owning tokens associated with new crypto protocols. Now, when you buy a stock, you own equity in that stock. When you buy, this is different in crypto. When you buy crypto, you are buying tokens. And again, the question always is, well, what do those tokens do? Are they purposeful, meaningful? Is there revenue being generated by this? And I'm just going to warn you again, guys, 99.99% of the tokens out there were worthless. What are some tokens that are worthwhile? Let me just mention in principle a particular type of token. So there are some decentralized exchanges. So I'm telling you guys to go to Coinbase because it's a really safe place to buy tokens. You don't have to custody your private key. If you went back and looked at my video from July 4th, you can see I messed up and my private key basically got stolen from me, and I lost a bunch of crypto. Coinbase is a bit safer in that you don't have your own private key. So I'm going to tell you it's a bit safer. Now, there are other decentralized exchanges. For instance, the most popular one I think is Uniswap. Uniswap has other offerings you're not going to find on Coinbase. You can find all sorts of random tokens, lots of scams, lots of scams. But the other thing you can often find is Uniswap offers a different liquidity pool for tokens than Coinbase. It also offers a different fee structure. Now, these things vary as time goes on, but Coinbase is known for being a little greedy with its fee structure. If you're a regular everyday user on Coinbase and you use their lower tier services, they have a higher fee every time you swap or you purchase crypto. If you choose their advanced platform, the fees go down a bit. Frankly, if I was you, I'd figure out how to use that advanced platform. If you go on there, it looks complicated, but a lot of the stuff you don't even need to use on there. If you can just figure out how to buy tokens, you instantly are going to save on those fee swaps. Okay, that's a discussion for another day. I'm sure there's lots of great videos out there about guys telling you how to use the advanced Coinbase features. Back to decentralized exchanges and what kind of tokens have value. So Uniswap has a token. They actually gave an airdrop. Years ago, there was an airdrop they gave out. And anyway, what is this token going to do? Well, now this is not what happened, but in principle could happen. Uniswap, every time there's a token, Uniswap, the exchange, every time there's a token that's swapped on their exchange, there's a little fee taken. And so you can imagine, where does that fee go to, right? These are decentralized exchanges. There's no central entity behind. There's no sort of owner. Who are the owners? Effectively, the people that own the Uniswap token. So you can imagine in the future that all of these fees that are accrued through swaps, that gets distributed through those people that hold the token. That's the idea. People are waiting for this to happen for a long time with Uniswap. They're waiting for the fee structure to turn on, as they like to say, flip that switch. I haven't paid attention in a long time, but it never happened. And I think the reason behind that is regulatory uncertainty, right? That's the thing. And so this Clarity Act that's stuck in Congress may provide a regulatory clarity that if you own Uniswap, and again, I'm not shilling Uniswap, you have to look into this, and I'll look into it myself a little bit further. It's just been a long time since I thought about Uniswap. This may allow you to earn effectively passive income, right? I want to talk to you guys over the next few weeks and months about how you can get passive income through various protocols. And these exchanges, these decentralized exchanges, this is one possible option in the future. You own the token, you get a proportion of the fees. Likely, the amount of fees you get, that proportion is proportioned to the amount of tokens you own. Okay, now you got to be careful when you're digging into these things, because you have to ask yourself all kinds of questions, like who owns the tokens? Is the amount of tokens, is it unlimited? Are they going to keep issuing these tokens, or is there a finite amount? All of this works into the calculation that you need to make when considering what kind of tokens to buy as we have the crypto market mature. Okay. And I have some real special ones that I think are gold mines, you guys. They're gold mines out there. I don't want to give away that golden goose yet. So Uniswap is one possibility. I'll just mention another one. This is Ethereum. This is one of the most popular tokens out there. It's number 2 market cap in the crypto space. And Ethereum, the way Ethereum works, Ethereum is a different thing. It's not an exchange. It's considered a base layer. Effectively, the transactions that occur in the blockchain, it is its own blockchain, are sort of stamped into stone, if you will, on the Ethereum blockchain. It also does sort of smart contract computation, so it can enable all kinds of financial protocols to be enacted. There's kind of computations involved with that. And to get those things to happen requires a so-called validator. That's effectively a computer or many computers that are used to run those calculations. When those calculations are run, there's a particular validator set, a computer, or rather a group of computers typically, that will make those computations happen. And because they make those things happen, a new Ethereum block is produced, and the computers, let's just say, that produce that block, they are rewarded with Ethereum tokens. Now, you guys, I know I'm making this a little bit simple for you new guys out there, and that's who I'm hoping to capture. If you're an advanced, you might be advanced, you have 32 ETH, you run your own validator, this is not the video for you. Okay. So if you have some ETH tokens, what you can do is you can pool your tokens with some other people at a protocol like Lido, Lido. And that is a protocol that allows you to put your tokens together with other people. That way there's a greater likelihood that your computer power effectively, or rather we should say staking power, the amount of ETH you hold will allow you greater ability to produce an Ethereum block, and therefore what's useful for you is to actually earn some ETH tokens. And once you get those ETH tokens, you can certainly convert them back to a stable coin like USDC or Tether, which effectively is a digital dollar. Once you have that digital dollar, you can take that back to Coinbase. You can swap with actual dollars, and they're effectively electronic themselves. And in your bank account, you now have more money, right? This is one quick way that you can start thinking about passive income. And that's just the Ethereum blockchain. There's lots of other ways to earn passive income in this space. So with the new guidance coming out from the SEC, all sorts of things happening. People are wondering if there's going to be an ICO boom. Okay, let's get back to that. ICO boom, it allows people to buy tokens across the world that would not have access otherwise. You're not an accredited investor, probably, right? You don't meet the criteria of the US government. But ICOs allow basically anyone to participate in this. Now, there are pros and cons to that, right? It allows the little guy to get in real early, but it also allows the little guy to possibly buy scams. I am a believer in the sovereign individual. I believe that each person should be able to make those choices as best as they can. I would err on the side of gatekeeping, of not gatekeeping effectively. Allow more people to get in, and if they buy scams effectively, I'm sorry, that's your fault. You need to do your own research and figure that out. Don't keep the rest of us out of this market just because some people don't know what they're doing. Allow us to be our own sovereign individuals and buy these tokens as we wish. Look, I've bought lots of scams. Like, I've bought meme coins that I knew were not going to really do anything in the long run. I knew it was like a quick flip, right? And lots of times I'm lost on that. It's part of the game. I completely understand that. I do not need nanny government to hold my hand and tell me that these things are going to happen and they're not going to allow me to do it. That's nonsense. I know more than the government, frankly, when it comes to this. So it's garbage. These guys should not be holding our hands. So will the ICO boom come back? It's probably going to be the case. So it looks like the government is starting to loosen up restrictions. The SEC is posturing that if the Clarity Act doesn't pass, they're just going to go ahead and set some rules. They're going to make things easier for these protocols to operate in the United States. I'll tell you another one that I just caught. I just caught the news, the very end of the news here. It was talking about another protocol called Hype, HYPE. And, you want to be careful. The token name is the same, HYPE. Whenever you have a protocol come out that does really, really well, you know what happens? Scams are spun up that have nearly the same name, maybe like HYP. And if you're not careful, you might actually buy that scam coin thinking you're buying the actual underlying protocol, the one that you won. Now, I believe Hype is also another type of exchange where they're doing something with the tokenomics. When I say tokenomics, that's effectively the economics surrounding the tokens. They're doing some kind of things there to try to generate revenue effectively for token holders. It's another one I need to dig into a little bit more to see what exactly is going on there and see how they're doing. Now, I'm looking at CoinGecko here, and Hype has absolutely skyrocketed. It went up 22% in the last 24 hours. These moves are what you expect in a crypto bull run. So, in the stock market, a 1% move in a day is typically considered kind of impressive. Maybe times are changed though. We're seeing more volatility in the stock market. Something I actually, not to toot my own horn, I predicted, 3 years ago that the one thing I said is what we're going to see. I was telling my friends that across the board is volatility. We're going to see volatility across all markets. And the same thing happens in crypto. So if you get into this market, and I suggest you start to dip your toes in, just sign up with Coinbase. You don't even have to buy any coins. Start to do some research. I'm going to provide you some ideas on my own. Bitcoin is a pretty safe bet, but that means it probably isn't going to do as well as some other tokens. Ethereum is a solid token to buy. It's the most popular public permissionless blockchain layer one out there. Effectively, you need that gas token to be able to do things on the Ethereum blockchain. And there are lots of protocols that are built upon that blockchain. There are lots of other traditional banks that are using the Ethereum blockchain to have final settlement, to basically show where capital has gone at the end of the day. So Ethereum is another solid bet. Its all-time high in the last bull run was something like $4,000. So that's about a factor of 2 from here. So, if you throw $1,000 in Ethereum and you're willing to wait, let's be conservative and say 2 years, it might double. I mean, that's a pretty solid bet, 100% increase in 2 years. You can't get that many places these days, and you might consider Ethereum. I definitely believe Ethereum is a solid blockchain. Another one that people will talk about after Ethereum is Solana. We'll have to dig into that more at another time. So take some action. Sign up with Coinbase, sign up with Binance, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We're going to really get into some picks. Right now, I'm not really talking about the fundamentals with you guys because I just need you guys to get on board and sign up. Start thinking about this. Thinking about, do you have some additional capital out there? And you don't need a lot. I mean, you just want to dip your toes into this space. It's still far out on the risk curve. We're not talking about U.S. Treasuries here, which are really a safe bet. We're far out there on the risk curve. But if you're like me and like many other guys coming from basically nothing, and you're seeing inflation go through the roof, and these numbers put out by the government, 3% inflation, and meanwhile, you're seeing your rent double since 2020, you got to get ahead. How are you going to do it? You got to think of ways to get ahead. That might mean an additional job. You guys, I've got like 4 jobs right now. I got rid of a job about 8 months ago. It was a part-time job. Some of these jobs are part-time. I got rid of that one, but you guys, I'm working like a dog. This is the time to do it. What do they say? Make hay while the sun is shining, you guys. Make hay while the sun is shining. And as we enter this bull market, this is an opportunity. It's a golden opportunity. So let's get on this, and I'll see you next time. Take care.